Good evening, beautiful women and men. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know, I'm always saying I'm super duper excited, and I am today. I am Deshawn Antoinette Booker, your maximizing coach. And I am so excited today, and I'm really super duper excited because we are celebrating. That's right. What are we celebrating, everyone? It is Women's History, or as I like to say, Her Story Month. And we are celebrating the phenomenal women internationally, globally, locally, wherever these women are, and they are being barrier breakers. They are showing up and showing out. And we celebrate you, women of all ethnicities, of all cultures and backgrounds, and who you are, and your style, your flavor, your pizzazz. We say yes, honey, to you all over the world. So I am so excited that this show that we are doing is for that reason, and for the reason of women entrepreneurs. If you don't know, I'll tell you more about this show. The Yummy Cafe means your unlimited magnificence equals you and me. What is this concept? What is this platform? Well, as I always say, I have always been a woman, a young girl who was just that girl who wanted to have a backstage pass into how women really had this idea and turned their ideas into investments. How did a woman really know in her heart, in her soul, right, that she had to just do this thing, that she had a rumbling in her tummy, honey? She had an idea. She had something that was placed on her heart that said, this is your path. This is your purpose. How did she literally turn that vision into value? How did she turn that mission into marketing, right? How did she monetize that? How did she say yes to her purpose, to living in her highest potential? And so I created a platform where we can really celebrate the phenomenal women who have become amazing, phenomenal business women. I wanted to know their intimate journeys. Now, listen, as a young girl, and I always say this, I literally sat for hours gathering my mother's magazines, right? I would flip through the magazines and looking through all of the beautiful ads, but I was drawn to the women who were featured in the business section. I was drawn to their stories, and they just looked good and classy and sophisticated. And I read a little deeper into who they were. I was drawn into their stories and how they said yes to opening up their own businesses. How did they make it in corporate world? How did they make it in their own world? I was just taken by their drive and determination, their sassiness, honey, their smarts and sophistication. I just was. And I knew I too wanted to have that impact on the world. I wanted to show up the way these phenomenal women were showing up. And so I said, you know what? When I get older, I'm going to have my own business. I didn't really know what it would look like. I knew I liked to talk. I always had the gift of gab. And so I knew I would talk. I love theater. I love writing, directing, and of course, even acting. I just didn't know how that was going to come about. Well, I am a professor. I am a director, a writer, producer. But you know, I am also the founder and CEO of Maximizing Your Magnificence. And what I do is I coach powerhouse women into reaching their highest potential. I coach women in both their professional and personal lives so they can max out in every area of their lives. I help women to do three things really on the infrastructure of it all. I work with women so that they can become intentional, so they can live and work from a place of integrity, and so they can manifest increase in every area of their lives. Now, I know that sounds phenomenal and amazing, and I think it is. And the women that I coach believe that it is. And they are out doing wonderful things in their personal lives as well as in their professional lives. I am also the creator of the Magnificence Formula. Now, that is a formula that I really love to hone in on allowing women to have a lifestyle of magnificence and freedom. How do they create the life that they know they deserve with fulfillment, right? And that course is given through optimized and elevated courses, systems, and programs. And so I'm so excited to be the maximizing coach. I'm so excited to always be able to work with women from all over who say, Deshawn, I've said yes to my purpose. And so this platform, the Yummy Cafe, is an extension of that. It is what we are saying to all women who have said yes to their businesses, their purposes, their goals, and their dreams. I am celebrating them on this platform, and it's such a delight. I talk to so many women, and if you're watching this show right now and you believe you have a rumbling, a tumbling in your belly, and you know you have something to give birth to, this is the show for you because I am bringing to you women who've said yes to their calling and they're giving you a backstage pass into their intimate journeys. You know, I always say we see the end result, right, of women who have become successful. And we go, wow, look at her. She's amazing. She's doing her thing. But we don't always know those pain points that they had to go through along the way, right? We don't see the hurdles that they had to jump over, right? We don't know the mess that became their message. And we don't know the test that became their testimony. So this is what we do in this platform. You get that backstage pass. You get to see and touch and have an intimate, personal, up close relationship with these phenomenal women as they share with you and I how they said yes, even when the odds were against them. And that makes me super duper excited. Now, this is a live show. If you are live with us, we welcome you to go ahead and have a conversation with us. It's a dialogue, not a monologue. You can type in the chat all of what you need to say, your questions, your comments, suggestions. If you need clarification, we want you to jump into the conversation. If you are watching the replay, you can still type in your questions and comments. And if you need clarification, just make sure you write #replay. And I would know you watched the replay and get back to you as soon as possible. So again, sister girls who are watching, go get your friends, share this now. Let everyone come over with their salsa and their cup and sit at the table of the Yummy Cafe. We are so delighted that you are with us and we don't take it for granted. So I am going to introduce to you who our phenomenal entrepreneur is this evening, and she is phenomenal. Tanya Forte began her amazing journey over 20 years ago as she started her education at Howard University in Washington, D.C. as a political science major. That was quickly changed to communications law with an emphasis on entertainment law. She had numerous internships that would be the beginnings of creating her own path to successful business development, some of which include a page of Senator Ted Kennedy and a tenure at a great assignment for Black Entertainment Television, what we know as BET. She later went on to work for the Fox Television Network as a production assistant and then at Discovery Channel as a producer. Though her first love was an entertainment field, she eventually landed a position at the Office of Personnel Management where she worked her way up into the human resources development to the status of GS11. She was offered a position as the assistant to the press secretary for Ron Brown, which quickly ended, unfortunately, by his untimely death. For the next 15 years, she was a director of an HR development corporation, which was a family owned business. During that time, she founded and owned numerous lucrative daycare centers as well as behavior health facilities. Currently, she is the executive director and chief accountability coach and inclusion specialist of Robert Reynolds and Associates and the Filmore Group. At Robert Reynolds and Associates, Tanya is a consulting project manager. As a boutique consultant mentor firm, Tanya and her team works with the accountability of business and outline strategies to coach and consult facilities, companies. Wow. Currently consulting daycare centers, mental health agencies, primary care facilities, and all agencies owners to build a business up and beyond. She and her team are certified speakers, coaches, therapists, consultants, problem solvers, and thought leaders who are dedicated in helping businesses, women, and men owners become intentional and accountable in growing powerful, successful businesses. Now, this woman does all of that. And in addition to that, she is and has a love for interior design, and she's using her creativity in refreshing and redesigning her beautiful home. She is currently working on an entire house renovation. How does she find the time? I don't know. We'll ask her, right? Tanya is a wife of 19 years, a mother to three successful young adults. She is also the mother of three fur babies, who she also calls her second children. Now, I don't know how she has said, pause, Deshaun, I'm going to come and be a guest on your show. But she put herself on pause. Yes, she did, to come and share with us all of her juicy nuggets, her successful stories and strategies. Now, before she get here, I'm going to say this. I've been knowing Tanya a very, very long time. We met at Howard University, HU, you know, and I watched this young lady. And we were young. When you're in college, you're young, right? I have watched Tanya turn visions this small into what she then said is a business. I've seen her have the go and the get up and do it as a young person. I really did. I would watch her and admire her. She always had the style of luxe and luxuriousness in her DNA. It's just who she is. So listen, let's bring her on so we can get these juicy nuggets. Get your pencil and your pad and write down these notes. Without any further ado, I bring to you my sister, my friend, this wonderful woman of business, Miss Tanya Forte.
Hello,
Hi,
Deshaun. Hello, hello.
Tanya.
Thank you. Thank
Woo,
you
wait
very
a minute,
much.
wait a minute. It is
Such
Women's
beautiful
History Month.
accolades. Thank you. Thank you.
How are you? You are so welcome. How are
I am
you?
doing well this evening. How are
You look
you?
great. You look great. You look so great. Listen, I had to let the people know you've been doing this thing in your sleep. It's been in your DNA, and I always tell you that. And you know it's the truth, right? Tanya, you were always way before your time. You were just way before. You were always, Deshaun, I have an idea. Deshaun, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm going to do. Deshaun, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm thinking, and you were doing it. You were just that business minded.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
we just want to know. We're going to get into all of the juicy questions and everything, but you had the drive, and I literally haven't seen anyone with that drive at that time. We were in college. You know, we're thinking about classes and things. You were thinking about being a multimillionaire. You were retired. How did that happen? How did that develop for you?
Well, I think a lot of it just started with my family. My father, he went to college, came out as an engineer, lived in Boulder, Colorado, worked for the IBM Corporation. But one thing he always did was he had this strong entrepreneur attitude towards everything. And I think a
Mm.
lot of that just rubbed off on me. We moved to New York when I was really young. And while in New York, he just took on all these passion projects. He still worked at IBM, but he was always innovative. He was working on like cell phones before cell phones were even around. And he
Oh,
owned numerous buildings in Brooklyn, as well as New Jersey. And so I just saw him take his position at IBM and kind of thrust it towards the passions that he had. And it became lucrative for him. So I was just bit by the bug.
nice, nice. I love that. I know that I jumped ahead and I just had to ask her that because, I saw that. I experienced that with Tanya. And, it usually is after college, when individuals say, okay, I'm going to try something different maybe. But I really witnessed that in you. And it's just been your journey ever since. And so, just for you, those of you who are watching, just know that it doesn't have to wait to a particular age. If you feel that, in your, like I said, in your belly, right, and that you're supposed to be doing more, then get to it, right? And we're going to talk about what that looks like. How do you get to it? How do you actually begin to start that for yourself? So I was just sharing, before I brought you on, Tanya, that everyone has a different path, right? Everyone has such a different path to how they end up doing what they're doing. But what I know for sure, if I'm being honest, it really is being consistent and saying yes to yourself, because it's not a hard path to be on, even especially as a woman, right? And a woman in business. And we'll get to some of that for today, show this evening. But I just want to just let the people know, it isn't always easy. So again, if you're watching us live, we are welcoming you to join in the conversation. It is a dialogue, not a monologue. You can reach out to our guests, if you have a question or you just want to say hello. We're looking at the comments. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay and your question there, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, and you're not going to be overlooked in any way. This is a platform so that we are reaching down and pulling others up and inspiring and encouraging all of you who have said yes to something that you want to go and serve the world with. Right, Tanya?
That's right. That's right.
So, our first question, I love to ask this question of the guest is, when did you know you were supposed to do more than just work for someone else? When was your inception moment for, you can start with whichever of your businesses that you want to talk about, right? And you gave us a little bit, and I love that backdrop, right, to her dad. And I met her dad. Yep, she said it's all true. Absolutely, absolutely. Very prestigious, sophisticated man, And so, when did feel that this is what I am to do? Now, I read your beautiful bio. You've had the opportunities to work, in very high places and for high people, right? And how did you know that was, yeah, but then was it somewhere later or somewhere after that your inception moment said, this is what I'm moving you to do? And just what is your story? What was your journey? We are
I
here to
think,
listen to you.
and I think you know this too. Being at Howard during the time that we were at Howard, those professors were so awesome in letting us know that we could be ourselves. Like just unmanageable, unobtainable things.
Yes,
Those
yes.
professors geared us towards. Like I started out poli sci, and I think I sat in on somebody's class in social work. Then all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, this professor is phenomenal. I want to be a social worker. Then it was like, well, wait a minute. I went with someone to communications. And when I went down to communications, that was it. Because I wanted to go into law, but being down in the communications school at Howard University, it opened up so many doors. That gave me my internship at BET. It gave me my internship at Discovery Channel and my internship at Fox, all at the same time. And
Wow.
Howard let me know I could do it and still be in school. So what that told me was there's so many other ventures that you can be involved with, but ownership is key. And I think that's
Mm.
when, like, that was the time frame when a lot of professors were really teaching to own.
Yes.
It's all
Yes.
right if you do your own show. It's all right if you write a script, but
Mhm.
have ownership in everything you do. When I
Yes.
was at BET, I ended up writing, I don't even know how many countless shows, which that was like unheard of that they would allow an intern to do that. But it was the professors that were consistently pushing and saying, you can have your own, you can do your own.
Hey.
So yeah, it just catapulted there. Once I started out at Howard, entertainment law, it just went from there. It said, ooh, I can own my own station. I started a cable network called Baby TV. And once I started Baby TV, it was like, ooh, I can do my own production. Now,
Yeah.
though these things may have not caught on and
Mhm.
they weren't long lasting, they were definitely the stepping stones to let me know that I could have my own and could do my
Yes.
own.
Wow. Wow. Talk a little bit about the cake, the baby, what the baby.
So
Yes. Talk about
I
that.
was actually listed in the National Cable Network Association, which is in Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I started a cable network. I spoke to the CEO of
Wow.
Discovery Channel on a snow day back, many years ago. It was a snow day, and back then you could get people's telephone numbers. 411. I found his home number and I called him and I said, this is what I want to do. And he said, which was crazy because it was a snow day. And, he kind of guided me through what I needed to do and who I would need to speak to and where I
Mhm.
would need to go.
Yeah.
And I was able to get it started. I was able to do some small productions. And I wasn't able to launch to the magnitude that we now see cable networks, but
Yes.
that at least gave me the groundwork and the
Right.
understanding, especially
Right.
working at BET, of how it's done. And so
Wow.
I listed in the National Association of Cable Networks for probably about 10 years. I was
Wow,
the
Tanya.
premier, I was the startup, I was the one to look at. I did a lot with that. And I at that time I had just had my son, Robert, and I wanted him to be able to see his mom do something, put
Yes.
together something, put something in
Yeah.
his name.
Mm.
So at that
Mm.
time, I started Baby TV, and the parent company was Robert Inc., which is still alive today. And Robert Inc., what we did was we told stories about what to do when you have a baby, things that, other networks weren't talking about.
Yes.
What
Yes.
happened afterwards, how to deal with postpartum depression, just
Mm.
fun accolades to pregnancy.
Tanya, I'm going to just take a breather, a breath in and exhale because we haven't even spoken and gotten to the associations and the Filmore group, right? And you're already talking about, you've already said, you started two companies. You just said, this is what I want to do. And so what I'm hearing, and by the way, Denise Hart is watching us. Denise Hart from Howard University, our Howard
Hey,
University sister.
HU,
Hey, Denise,
HU.
HU, thank you for joining us. I'm hearing you say, as if as we're watching and we're taking notes, right, and we're taking these takeaways, that what was instilled within you by these phenomenal, professors. And Denise is also, by the way, Tanya, I don't know if I've shared, Denise teaches at Howard. She's a
Oh,
tenured
very
professor.
good. Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, HU.
She is in fine arts, absolutely. She's just doing her thing over there. She's coming on the show a couple of months from soon.
I'll
But
be sure.
nonetheless, yes, we're getting them all in. You listen, the women are just thriving. You're just thriving. I have to showcase us, right? But I'm hearing you say that when the seed was planted by your professors, you didn't say no to yourself. You really believed because they said it, right?
I believe because they said it, and because back then Howard was so hard.
Yes,
It
it was.
was so
Yeah.
hard. So when a door was open, you just had to kick it down and run through it. I mean,
Oh, I love
when
it.
we registered, we didn't have computers. We waited in line for hours and days. We
Yes.
slept out just to register for classes. So
Yes.
as that started to ease, it was like it just gave me I can do anything. I mean, it's like it was just so Howard University back then was so hard. People, kids just don't know how easy they have it.
Yeah.
Going from one class to another, if you were 1 minute late, that door was shut and you were not allowed
Yeah.
in.
Right.
And you would sit outside the door with
Try
other
to.
people who didn't make it in, and
Right.
we would exchange notes. We
Right.
were up in the stacks trying to figure out how to write papers, and did you take this test? It was really, really an enormous learning curve for me,
Yeah.
because coming
Yes.
out of high school, I had the grades. I did well. I was
Yes.
at the top of the class. But then coming to Howard, it was just such a revolutionary time. I mean,
Hmm.
we look now and we have cell phones and we have computers. We did not have cell phones and computers, but they started during
Right.
that time. So the
Absolutely.
time that we were at Howard, it was like so innovative, and then
Yes.
it was so cultural. We had so many different cultures. We were learning so much. And
Yes.
then afterwards, I just felt like obtaining 3 internships.
Yeah.
I just felt
Amazing.
like I could do anything, and I've never stopped. I just feel like, and I'm so proud of Howard. Like, people will say, "Oh, well, this is going on at Howard." I'm like, "So what?
Yeah.
You better
Right.
get
Right.
in
Exactly.
you better get in there and get, because HU
Yeah.
teaches you
It's
so much more." And
yes.
so after leaving Howard, I ended up going to NC State, which is here in North
Okay.
Carolina, and it was a cakewalk. So that's
Yes.
what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
You look at people through life and you're like, oh, I just always have to revert back. And it's
Yes.
not always spoken. I don't speak about Howard all the time, but it's so many things in the back of my mind that I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do this because of
Because
this.
that's
And
right.
they are things
Right.
that were not spearheaded by
Yes.
technology. It was just
Yes.
common sense, common knowledge, networking. I'm still
Yes.
friends with people. The job that I got at the Office of Personnel Management, I got because
Hmm.
of a friend of a friend. Even
Hmm.
now, when I was starting my daycare centers here in North Carolina, it was another alumni at Howard who said, look, follow me. I'll show you the way. I'll
Yes.
show you how to do it. So
Yes.
I contribute a lot of that, just early learning and breaking the curve and bumping my head and having to start over, just having that enthusiasm, the resilience, and just being able to keep spearheading just
Hmm.
came from that start.
I love that. I love it. Education, right? That strong, solid foundation where you were poured into, right? And poured into your self esteem, your self worth. You were giving the permission to say yes to yourself. So,
Yeah.
listen, those of you that are watching live and watching the replay, whatever and whomever it is that is saying yes to you, sometimes we don't believe in ourselves, right? Or sometimes we need someone to help us see who we are, whether it's your professors, a mentor, a pastor, right? A coach, whomever that person is, your family members, right? Your guardians, your parents that are saying yes to you. And so when that's established in you, you almost feel, Tanya, if I'm hearing this also, it's like, I got something to prove now. Like, wait a second. I didn't
Yeah.
receive all of this goodness, right? This foundation, this infrastructure for nothing. Now let me take it. And what am I going to go and do? I'm
Exactly.
going to go now, as you said, and kick down the door. I love when you said that,
Yes.
right? So let's talk about your inception moment around the Robert Renters Association and the Filmore Group and your daycares and your behavior services, facilities. How did that actually come to mind for you? What was that
Well,
like in the beginning
it
stages?
it really came because of trial and error. The
Okay.
um the daycare center, I'm here in North Carolina, so I'm here in the South, and there were so many obstacles in building these daycare centers. I mean, there's so many people that just don't want you to succeed, as it always is in business.
Yeah.
You'll find that. But I think having just the love for children and wanting to help young mothers, single mothers, it gave me this hope with daycare. It just opened my eyes that, we can offer a service that is actually very helpful.
Yeah.
People take daycares for granted.
Yes.
People
Yes.
think, oh, well, it's just a daycare. But that is the fundamental and the starting point of a child's education. And I
Yes.
made that was just so important. So when
Mhm.
I set the foundation for the daycare, I carried that over into my own life. When I would go to seminars, I not only learned for daycare children, but I learned for my own children. I learned for cousins, nieces, nephews. I began to learn how to deal with humans. And that
Mm.
was the most important part that I took away from it. I had over 5 daycare centers, and I had them for about 10 to 15 years.
Wow.
And when I began to close them, to make one stronger and to move on and to move up and bigger, and you build the fundamental daycare center that has everything, the bells and whistles, the stars that the
Wow.
state give you, the compliance that's higher than anything even going now. We were at one point had a 98% compliance. I
Wow.
just
Incredible.
really wanted to focus on the kids. And
Yeah.
so I took
Yeah.
the lessons that I learned from the kids and I instilled them in my children.
Mhm.
And I began to hone in on their educations. So, my youngest son, I was determined that he would be valedictorian, period.
Okay.
All because of the lessons that I learned. I taught him how to read at like 6 months. I had
Mm.
never understood that. I wasn't an education teacher, or I
Yeah.
wasn't, that wasn't my major in school. So I didn't
Right.
know anything about education. I didn't know how
Right.
to
Right.
help people learn. How do you make people learn? But what I did was I took the lessons that I got in these seminars, I instilled them in my children, and they
Mm.
ran with it. So
Wow.
then
Wow.
understanding that, once I closed the daycare centers and I was ready to pivot, I started doing HR for different companies. I started doing outsourced HR, and I still wanted that human. I wanted to be able to help people to
Yeah.
make themselves
Yeah.
better, to ask the questions. What do you need? Do you need resources, or
Mhm.
do you need education? What is it that you need to help build what you want to do?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just started having a love just for people. So when
Mm.
I ended up going to Las Vegas, and we opened a behavioral health agency called A Brighter Perspective. And I was able to touch many people by those same teachings in daycare. I
Yeah.
treated the clients with respect, the
Yeah.
patients with respect, and I was able to build and show those same clients how to get out of the situations, how to get over the obstacles that were in front of them. And
Wow.
these are homeless people. These are people who, are quite desolate. They don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Yeah.
By working with my son, we were able to start his company, which is called the Lennox Group. And the Lennox Group was able to just touch many, many people and help many people through their struggles with bipolar. It didn't really matter what it was, anxiety,
Yes.
depression. We
Yes.
just had the gamut of behavior health issues that we were helping people overcome,
Wow.
or actually live with.
Yeah.
So once that was done, I said, well, I can see that I can now help people to open these same type of businesses, opening facilities, primary care facilities.
Oh.
So we've now opened 3 primary care facilities. There's his behavioral health plus his primary care. Plus, he wants to get into and get involved with delivering products, health products to different organizations as well as people. So I started out with him. And once I did that, I was able to funnel it into other people and help them start their businesses and help them grow.
Oh, wow. Your mind is on such a path where it takes these steps, right? The next level, the next level, the next level. It isn't linear at all.
It
I love how
absolutely
you
is.
said you right. One was birthed from the other, and then you just kept saying, "Well, yeah, I really have a heart for the people, and now I want to teach others how to do the same thing, how to
Yeah.
create their own
How to
business."
create their own. I mean, that was when we had the daycare centers, that was the most important thing. Like my father would always tell people who were bringing their children to the daycare that maybe had moved a lot or
Mm-hmm.
didn't have money to feed their children. He was always a facilitator of that. Filmore Academy, which was our daycare centers, eventually moved into the Filmore Group, which is a nonprofit. And we were always there to facilitate. So through the Filmore Group, I started consulting daycare centers. How do you then become a magnitude? I'm just a home daycare center. How can I grow to the level that I want to be?
Yes.
And it was just eye opening. There were so many people that were like in home daycare centers that didn't know the next step. But the next step is right there. You just have to know how to
Mm,
market yourself, how to brand what you're doing, how to open those doors
yeah.
to like excellence. What is that you want, and then take it to any level. I think a lot of times we have the small vision. We know we
Mm,
want to do the big thing,
yeah.
but we
Yeah.
keep it small because it's safe. I'm
Yeah.
never safe. Like
Come on. Okay.
if we're gonna open this behavioral health, then we're gonna open a primary care. And so many
Mm,
people have asked me, "Oh, is your son a doctor?" By no means. What does your son do? Oh, my son was an IT specialist, and
yes.
now he works for Samsung, and he's got his own division. But at the
Yes.
same time, he's opening a primary care facility
Yes.
as well
Yes.
as a behavioral health.
Wow.
And he already has clients that he has been working with at other institutions, and those institutions ended up bringing his company on board. So,
Mm,
you when people say they want to have something and they meet with me and I consult with them, we
yeah.
start with a mustard seed. We start with something so small. But I
Yeah.
always ask them, what's the bigger picture? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And
Mm,
so if they say, well, in 10 years, I want to own a facility, okay, well, let's start working on that now. That
yes.
might not
Yes.
be obtainable today, but we're going to start working on that right now so that you're gathering information, you're networking, and you're able to open what you want, but
Okay.
then see that bigger picture right there and it's obtainable.
Wow. Tanya, you create the big steps for your clients, right?
Yeah.
You create the big boots to step in and to say this is where we're going, and I'm going to coach you in that arena. Before I move on to the next question, I just have to ask, when you say, well, not when you say, because you stand in the role of chief accountability coach, does that scare people? Do they go, I don't want to be accountable, Tanya. I just want to get to it. I don't want to have any accountability.
Well, when I teach, well, first of all, I'm a graduate, a lifetime graduate of Landmark. So when I learned the concepts through Landmark, it wasn't necessarily accountability. They didn't use
Yeah.
those words,
Mm-hmm.
but I took some of what I had learned with them, the triggers, don't let things trigger you. A lot of time people are not accountable because they have obstacles.
Yes.
So they
Yes.
aren't really scared when I say chief accountability or we're going to make you accountable,
Okay.
because we make lists, and we go down each list and we put things in order. We have an outline of how you want to
That's,
complete a task.
yeah.
So even if we have a list, and let's say we have 10 things on the list, and one of my things in coaching is you have to make a list, you have to have a journal, and you have to list every day. And so
Yeah.
people are like, oh,
Yeah.
but the list is so fun. Like on my list, I have, okay, so my list from last week it started out, make sure you do things around the house. So
Yes.
I had to pick like 2 or 3 things, and I categorize it
This is good
on the
stuff.
side
Come on. Yeah.
by house. So the first thing is
Mm,
house. And then the next thing is fun. So
Okay.
I got to do something fun. I got to do house.
Yes.
Then I'm going to leave out the house. What do I have to do? I've got to go to the store. So then I have the things that I have to do there. But then I had things like pray for Ukraine.
Yes.
I have things like check on my friends. I'm consulting 2 young ladies that are pivoting from their jobs. They're going from retail or behavioral health, and they're pivoting into a project management position. So I'm helping them market that. But on there, I had check on them. So I had like 8 people that I had to check on.
Yeah.
And then I had some notes that I had to do in reference to behavioral health that I had to brush up and clean up. I had to do things for my children, keep their insurance and that sort of thing. All these tasks are on this list that I keep daily. And what I had to teach people was, even if you can't do everything on the list, you will feel empowered because you finished 15 things on a list of 20. And the lists are long. And then the next day you carry those 5 things over and you start the list again. Yes. And then that becomes an everyday thing. This is how all day long, I am knocking things off of my list. And because I am able to waterfall these type of things and to benchmark and to make sure that I'm hitting those points, I'm able to keep myself accountable. I'm able to admit, okay, I didn't do this, but I was able to finish these things.
Okay.
And so I think when you have lists and when you take yourself through channels, when you are not too hard upon yourself, but when you are making yourself accountable, you're looking inside to say, what are the things that make me more accountable? And a list does that, because on that list, you can put long-term goals, you can put short-term goals.
Right.
Just as long as you're able to look and see those goals, you're able to obtain them generally in a short amount of time.
Tanya, that was fire. That is so fire. I love the takeaways. Listen, those that are watching, I know you're writing this down. And sometimes, and the question just was, about accountability. And she broke that down in such a way that makes it easy, right? And that makes it accessible, right? And not so intimidating. And you're creating that habit, that new way of seeing things and looking at things. And I too, I understand. I graduated from Landmark, so we have that same thing in common. And love me some Landmark, right?
Yes.
And it does teach you and give you just that different mindset. It does.
Yes.
It does set you apart. And so I love that you do that with your clients, and that it becomes a ritual. It becomes easy, right? So let's look at you've talked about some great things here in this conversation of how you started your companies, which is just phenomenal, right? You did talk a little bit, but if you can dive a little deeper, because it's a very competitive market that you're in. What has been some of the hurdles that you as a business, woman had to endure? You had to say, oh my goodness, here's this barrier, this blockage, this, breakdown. Am I going to keep going? Because honey, listen, I've had some, and I know I'm gonna have some more. And there were times where I did stop. I stopped everything. I shut it down because I just wasn't feeling like it was something I should do, because I didn't see my expectations that I, were wanting and desiring. What were some of the hurdle moments that you had to experience, and how did you overcome them?
Well, a lot of it was just in business. I was a drama minor. So, coming from like entertainment, radio, TV, and film, business is just different. You look at business like the show must go on. It has to finish. What do you mean? We're not, what? We're on air, So, I mean, just working at so many jobs in that field, there was no quit. So when I came down to North Carolina and I started my daycare centers, there were so many hurdles. There were so many people that just worked against you. There were so many haters. There were so many daycares that didn't want you to succeed. So many people in the business that didn't want you to succeed. Consultants that didn't want you to succeed. But I think the biggest thing that was just really fundamental was we had a daycare center and we were making the money that the big centers make. So we're making hand over fist money. And the state kept implementing things that were changes. So, that's like there's big transition. So there would be a policy, and it was like every other week, it was a different policy. And it seemed as though the policies were geared towards us. Like we were the first in Raleigh, North Carolina to do transportation. Well, then all of a sudden, they came out with a whole policy book on transportation, but we were the only ones doing it. But of course, there were laws for that. We were the first one to do 24-hour care. So we're caring for children from 24 hours. Our doors never closed. Wow. And so there were policies that came over there. So that was a hurdle moment because it just seemed like every day with the daycare was a shutdown opportunity. It just seemed like, whenever you work with something that deals with compliance and somebody can come in and do a compliance review at any time, that is a hurdle. So, dealing with people, there's no compliance. I know that through Landmark, I'm going to do the best job that I can. I know that I'm going to have the best insight. I'm going to be honest with myself. And I think that's what makes me a good coach. Last fall, I was coaching someone who was coming from a different field into business. That was a hurdle. Transitions are hurdles. But I just kept having to break her down to say, this is obtainable. Stop reverting back to I can't. You can do this. So the biggest moment that I had was probably breaking through in the beginning with daycare. And afterwards, it was smooth sailing. Then it was, let's open up another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, wait a minute. We're on 4. Oh, here comes 5. Oh, your compliance is at top. I've always been a list writer, and I began to implement a system for my daycares such that there were never any obstacles and there were never any hurdles, period. We were always ready for compliance. So in other words, if I open my center at 7 a.m., it doesn't matter who comes through the door. The president, it doesn't matter. My young ladies, my assistant, everybody that worked for me, we were a team and we were ready. And so every business that I go into, I'm the same way. They're not even compliance driven, but I give them compliance tools and levels, and each level that they get to, they have to remain at a certain structure level. Like you can't drop back down to 0 when you're already at 6. And as I was saying before, everybody that I consult, we're going for the big. We're not just opening just to open. Oh, I just need a little. No, we're going so that you can get the biggest bank that you need. You can get the biggest feelings that you need, the biggest accomplishment, whatever it is you want. It's like you say that we are maximizing.
Yes. Listen, I know those that are watching are saying, how can I get to Tanya? We're going to give you her information at the end of the show, because you do not want to miss how she's giving compliance tools, even when you don't have to have a compliance, sector in your business. But it's important to have that, drawn up in that mindset, right? It's important to have that written out in that format. I am just taken by, your strategies, your successful tools that you're giving, because that's where people miss it, right? We miss it. We want to just get to the other side, without having to really do that work. And as a coach, you are saying that, no, I'm going to take you step by step, but I'm going to give you the realities of it. And I'm going to, while I'm doing that, expand your vision. I'm going to expand your vision. And so a lot of people, women, when they start, they have small visions, right? And they said, I'll just do this. But you're saying there is no small visions with you. Right. No. I love that.
Everything is big. And then there's also no disappointment. You go for the big. I think as people, especially as women, we have dealt with a lot of disappointment. So when it comes to your business, it's just like a steady truck. Stop
Ah,
thinking like a pitfall. Oh, I fell in. No, you're going to come out. It might take a little bit longer, but
yeah,
let's strategize and let's figure out how to get out.
that's
The
right.
one thing that I think that is so helpful with me being a consultant that's so different is I've worked in so many fields that I bring all that to the table. So I'm bringing
Okay.
HR, I'm bringing entertainment, I'm bringing behavioral health, I'm
Yeah.
bringing environmental science, all
Wow.
these things. So
Wow.
when I sit down with someone and they might be, oh, I'm a naysayer, oh, I can't do it, then we
Yeah.
have to break down what's going on. We have to look at the behavior health that's going on.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
can't you do it? What's
Yes.
the obstacle? Okay, you don't have the money. Well, money comes with credit. What does the
Mm,
credit look like? Okay,
yes.
well, I know how to fix that. We know how to make that jump. You see,
Yes.
so there's so many. I mean, when I first came to North Carolina, I was a credit specialist. And the
Yes.
funny thing is so many people say, oh, well, I can't get that loan. Oh, yes, you can. We're going to go get that loan. So whatever the obstacle is,
Yes.
I'm able to get through those obstacles. We're able to have breakthroughs
Yes.
because I've had my hands in so many pots. I have been in so many places and worked to help so many people get ahead. There's so many projects that I've worked on.
Right.
BET, just going back to Discovery, BET, the
Mhm.
Fox Network, Office
Yes.
of Personnel Management. Each one was different, but I took something from there that today I'm able to give people and they're able to succeed.
Yes, those pillars of strength. Absolutely. They gave you that foundation. And when you get and grab principle, it doesn't change,
No,
right?
no.
It doesn't change. And we
One
take
one
principle.
thing one thing you have to look at, I'm sorry. One thing you have to look at is if you have a policy, this is the
Yes.
most important thing, is this is usually how I start. If you're going to be accountable, you're going to have policies. If you break policy, then
Mm-hmm.
you will break your business. So
Mm,
if you always remember that I have a set of rules that
yes.
I'm going to abide by, it
Yes.
doesn't even matter. We're going to have to figure out how to make this work through these policies,
That's
through
good.
behavior health. You deal with Medicaid, you deal with insurance companies, and they deal with note taking. They deal with information that has to be in line. But
Yes.
with that information being in line, you also have to say, how can we make this client work? So I do those same theories. I take those same theories and work them through my clients that I consult. What is
Nice.
it that you want to get to? Well, then
Yes.
you have to set in your life a certain group of policies.
I
You've got to
like.
work on your credit. You've got to
Yes.
work on behavioral. You've got to
Yes.
work on sleep. You've got to
Yes.
work on self-care. I
Yes.
mean, when I coach, I'm not just
Mm.
coaching on here you go, this is how your business works. No, I coach on the everything,
Holistically.
the
Holistically.
whole body and soul,
Yes. Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Tanya, listen, I got to give you this.
Clapper. I got my
We
clapper.
are celebrating Women's History Month. Listen, she is
Oh, yes.
dropping fire, giving you the nuggets. I'm doing like this. I'm really doing like this, right? Because when I'm talking I'm talking about you women. I'm talking about powerhouse women who say yes. They look at those women. They say, I want that. I want this, right? I want to do this. How can I do it? You got to get connected to the right coach. You
Yeah.
got to get corrected to the right coach. One of the taboos that women of color, are thinking and walking around
Yes.
with is, I don't need anyone to
I
help
don't need any help.
right? And I don't need any help. That's such an untruth. It is a fallacy. Please take
It
that and
is.
shove it somewhere. You got to get connected to the powerhouse coach. And this woman here is telling you, that you must have policies in your business and policies in your personal. And I
That's
love when
right.
you break your policy in your personal, you're going to break your business.
That's right.
I
It's
love
going to go
that.
away.
I love
And
that.
I mean, and we basically, with the women that I have consulted and men, I've said, let that roll over to your house. That's
Yes.
exactly how I started with daycare. When I went to those seminars, I let that roll over into my house.
Mm-hmm.
My house was so well run when I was that big business woman.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I had a young lady who was coming in who was helping, but the house was well run. My
Yes.
kids did not, I never had a problem getting my kids in bed. My kids got up, they went to school, they did their homework, and it wasn't, I didn't have to, yeah, there was some yelling, but I didn't have to like beat them. I didn't have to, come
Yes.
on, let's do it. Was not that. It was
Right.
very well organized, but that organization came from the lessons that I learned.
I get it. They knew the policy, right?
We
They
knew
knew
the
that
policy.
policy. They
That's
knew
right.
that. This is great stuff. Let's talk about your worthy moments. When did you know I'm in my zone? This is it, and I'm going nowhere but up. What were some of those things or experiences that happened for you as a woman in business that you said, this is my purpose, my passion, and is worthy of my life?
I would probably say once I opened the behavioral health agency, um, that was just monumental
Hmm.
because the people that we were working with
Yeah.
were just so desolate. I mean, these are people that just were
Hmm.
in such need. So that was not my career and that was not what I was doing. But a good friend of mine who I grew up with ever since we were young, since New York, said to me, she was like, "You really have a passion for this." What I would do is write notes to give to the therapist about the people that I would meet or people that I was gonna, bring in and
Yes.
intake, and if we wanted these people to come into the organization. And I just wanted her to know what I was doing, my friend. And she just said, "This is just so passionate. You
Yes.
really know what you're doing." So I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to open up my own business. I'm going to help my son open his business. And I mean, we right now, if you looked in my office, I keep everything is very organized when it comes to my businesses. And there are probably 8 businesses that are family owned that are thriving, that I helped with the inception of, that I helped to
Yes.
start,
Yes.
that, we went and got the EIN and we registered those corporations and we put the policies in place and we started doing the marketing and the branding and just, keeping them in order. So
Yes.
having that many companies and just understanding
Mm.
that, probably
Powerful.
about 4 or 5 years ago, it just really hit me like, this is it. This
Yeah.
is what I should be doing. And I think I came and saw you probably about 6 years
Mhm.
ago.
Yeah, you
And,
did.
and
Yes.
I was telling you, I just can't do it. I
Yes.
can't do it. I don't want to do it. And you
Yes.
were like,
Oh, we
you
had
can
so a
do
good
it.
time. You got to come back, and I got to come to you.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Yes. We went and
So
had sushi and everything, you guys. We had such a good time. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
we did. But the thing was, it sat with me because I did have all these things that I could be doing,
Yes.
but I wasn't doing them because I didn't feel like I could I could I could properly help someone do it. That was the problem.
Ah.
Like I could have started coaching because that's what I was doing. I could have started
Yeah.
coaching
Yeah.
probably 7 or 8 years ago. As soon as
Yeah.
I did Landmark 15
Yeah.
years ago.
Right.
As soon
Right.
as I got out of Landmark, I could have started coaching.
Right.
But, I guess I needed some more obstacles and some more setbacks and some more downfalls,
Yeah.
because all those things, led me to behavioral health and led me to a point where I could now jump up and say, this is really what I should be doing. And that
Wow.
was
Wow.
probably about 5 or 6 years ago, right after I came out to California. When
Wow.
I came back, I just got started then.
Yes. Yes. Tanya, I love your heart for people.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh,
we
most
we don't
definitely.
we don't hear that a lot. People may placate like they do because it's a trend or it's fat or it makes you look good, but your heart for extending, to others service so that they are in a better place, and not just a better place temporarily, but you're looking at the longevity. You're looking at creating generational wealth for your clients, right? For those that are, underprivileged, right? You're looking at how do you create that and
Mhm,
set them
mhm.
in their place. And your heart is just for the humanity. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I don't say that lightly, that really is what
Thank
I'm
you.
hearing
Thank you.
with your journey is that, Deshaun, yes, this was great and all these things, but you found that your niche, is in really being of service to those that don't see it for themselves, right? And really pushing them to have the bigger picture. That
Yes.
that's so powerful. That's so powerful. We've been told by so many, as a culture, you forget about it. Where's
Yeah.
the 9 to 5, right? You need something that is going to, be very permanent for you and that's stable and consistent and that it's there. And it makes sense, right? And so
Yes.
you're saying to people, think out the box. You don't have to say no to getting a loan. Those things are intimidating, Tanya. Those
Very,
things are intimidating.
very, very
And so,
intimidating.
right. And I remember you were still that person in college. You did not say no to anything. You were like, nope, nope. I don't even know if I've ever said it, but I'm sure I did. But I would just watch you and go, she's just, and you were, this has nothing to do with business, but I gotta tell the story. Tanya is the reason why I have a little
Yeah.
Maltese.
Yeah. Yeah.
She
Tika.
introduced me to the little Maltese dog,
Yeah.
and what was the baby's name again?
Tika.
Yes,
Tika.
yes, Tika, Tika. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I have pictures of me, of Tika and I. And
Mm-hmm.
so Tanya introduced me to this bougie dog, is what I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I became an adult, I said, I want me that bougie dog too. And
Mm-hmm.
I have Sir Bison, Bison like Howard University
How
Bison,
do you,
okay?
HU?
But I mean, I took so many jewels from you. So as we move on, I want you to also just go ahead and allow the viewers and the listeners to get the juicy nuggets on your 3 journey words, right? Um, and you say you're going to say what they are, and how have these words, kept you on your journey and continue to move you forward?
Okay. Well, my 3 words are trust, resilience, and of course, accountability. And I think they've moved me on my journey because I didn't necessarily understand them nor
Mm.
have them in the beginning. So with trust, you know, people always come about trust like, oh, I don't know if I trust them. I don't know. I think what you have to do, and this is the way I see trust, is you have to trust yourself. A
Right.
lot of people want to trust someone else, but trust yourself in the decisions that you make and don't worry about what other
Mm,
people are doing.
mm.
So if someone else, if the biggest thing that happened to me in business, the worst thing that could ever have happened to me was I had an employee who basically destroyed one of my daycare centers. I mean, this was just heart wrenching.
Wow.
It would be some kind of like cyber war right now. That's what it would be today. But back then, called the state, had the state come in, did all these things to my business. Sent the employees away, basically shut the business down. And this was one
Wow.
of my biggest moneymakers. And I don't know, I just never got upset during the whole thing. It was traumatizing because this was my
Yes.
business and I did have employees and, bank accounts. I mean, when I say it was shut down, it was shut down. But the thing is, I trusted in myself and what I knew to do. And the way that I got out of it was I did not retaliate. I did not do anything against this person. I did not have this person arrested. I did absolutely nothing but did an about face and went and
Mm.
opened something else.
Wow.
So I didn't sit in the fact that, oh, but I trusted them. No, I trust myself. I
Oh,
trust
that's
in
good.
what
That's
I have.
good.
So when this person did this,
Mm.
I've never spoke harshly. I've never looked back and I've
Yes.
kept moving forward. I always feel like I don't really have trust in people. I have trust in what I do. And you
Yes.
can only expect people to do what they're supposed to do, but people have control over their own selves. So, if
Yes.
they do
Yes.
something and you're like, wow, I can't believe they did that. I believe what anybody can do. Anybody. I
That's
don't put
right.
anything past
That's right.
anybody.
That's
but
right.
I don't allow it to interrupt what I do.
Okay.
So, and this person was in charge of payroll. This person was in charge of kind of human resources. I mean, we both did it for the business. But what you have to understand is this person is someone that most businesses you say, oh, I trust them.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what you have to understand is business does not have feelings.
Yes.
Trust is a feeling. So
Yes.
to put trust in someone, you do need to have, your team, and you do need to have somebody that is able to push the button for
Mhm.
your payroll and able to keep things in line and able to make bank drops. But the
Right.
thing
Right.
is, you can never put too much trust in someone else. You have to trust what you know and
I love
keep your
it.
things close to your heart. And even in business, because in business, there's no feelings. People don't
Yes.
care in business. People
Yes.
will do
Yes.
to you. They will take your money. They
Yes.
will do the most harsh things. They will be so mean. And when we did have one confrontation, what she told me was,
Mm.
I cannot stand you because you're always smiling and you're always happy.
Oh, wow.
And at first I was like, oh,
Wow.
no, what a good
Wow.
quality.
Wow.
So the
Yes.
whole time I
Yes.
was working for 15 years, what you got was she's always happy.
Happy.
She was mad because I was happy. So
Wow.
what I can say is trust in yourself. Don't put too much
Yes.
trust into
Yes.
other people.
Yes.
Trust yourself.
I love
Um,
it.
with resilience, just always be resilient. Until
Yes.
you are not breathing, there's
Yes.
always an opportunity.
That's right.
And I tell my
Yes.
girlfriend, she was dealing with a lot of different things in business. She was in the public sector. And she would call me and she would say, oh, this was so hard today. And my manager did this. And I would just tell her, take a deep breath. You're
Yes.
still breathing.
Yes.
Strategize for something else and just keep going. And you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice that when you look back at all your resilient times, you can be happy because you've made it
Yes.
where you are. So
Yes.
you just have
Yes.
to keep going. You have to keep
Good.
earmarking things, making sure that you're reaching, just set goals for yourself and make
That's
sure you're
right.
reaching those goals. Make sure that you're putting things aside for what you want in life, making sure you're
Yes.
doing what you want, both in your
Mhm.
business and in your life, and just keep going.
That's good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
And then
Yes.
last is accountability. I mean,
Ooh.
it was a time in my life, and a lot of my girlfriends know, I will call them and say, was I right to do this?
Mhm.
Because I want to make sure that everything I do, I'm doing on the up and up. In
Yes.
business, you are confronted with so many situations. So you want to make sure that when you make a decision, it's your decision. You can
Yes.
sit in that decision, you can feel good about it,
Mm.
and you can say, I've done what I've wanted to do. You
That's
can
right.
make sure that you've received blessings. Sometimes there's things that happen that you may have prayed for, and you're just like, I don't know, God, what do I do? Do I do it this way or this way?
Yes. Yes.
Really sit back and evaluate what you do and just be accountable for what you've done, and then move forward in that accountability.
Oh, that's
And
good. That's good.
that's really when I'm coaching someone and they're
Yes.
saying, oh, but I can't do it, I don't want to do it. We always set goals and we hit those goals. They might
Yeah.
not always come when you want them to. They might
Yeah.
not come today or tomorrow. And you might have a hiccup. It's kind of like the
Say that.
behavioral when
Say
we deal
that.
with
That's right.
AA, and when we deal with some of our clients that are maybe relapsing.
Yes.
They're so hurt. But there's one thing that I also teach in my accountability course, and we do labs. We have a lot of different things. We're getting ready to have a retreat. But one thing that I teach is, do you want the knowledge or
Yeah.
do you want the resources? And I
Mm.
let people sit in that for about 2 or 3 weeks, just so we
Mm.
can have a real heated discussion in
Yes.
reference to what moves you, what makes you accountable, what do you need to be
Oh,
accountable?
that's
Do you
good,
need
Tanya. That's good.
resources or do you need knowledge?
Knowledge.
And
Yes.
so when I have these retreats, I always start with that. And by the end, you'll learn what is more important in life,
Oh,
resources or knowledge.
Listen, my goodness, I love that. Okay, well, you've just literally given us the segue into what's happening with you. Then we're going to give everyone your contact information. So, you said you're having a retreat. Talk about that and what does that look like, and how can those listening, watching be a part of that? What
Yes.
is your retreat?
So we will be putting out the marketing materials at the 1st of April, but the third week in April, the third week in August, and the third week in October. So it's always the third week, and it's that weekend. I do a retreat, and I do a retreat that's either for newbies in business, startup companies, or if you just need to shock your company, you need to receive more information, you need more abundance to you may need
Yeah.
money, you may need loans. But what I do is I hold a 3-day, it's kind of like a symposium. It's where you are relaxing. The first
Mm,
day you will come in and you'll relax, you get to know everybody, you talk about your business, and you just kind of brainstorm with everybody. You find out what everybody's doing, you find out what's worked for everybody, and then we go into the section which is knowledge or resource.
love
And
it.
the ladies, young ladies and gentlemen will learn what is more important to them. They will be able to then take that information, and we go through some skill sets, and we go through
Yes.
some games, and we just sit and we learn how to be accountable in this new space or in the old space that they're creating. On the
Mm-hmm.
last day, we come together and we just regroup, and we just kind of really just love on each other. We found
Yes.
each other. We build resources so that we can keep in contact, and I'm able to give people benchmarks which I then check up on.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yes.
able to
Yes.
start their coaching
Yes.
process. They're
Mm-hmm.
able to get the information that they need to continue on. And the first one is Executive and Women's Leadership Project. And I've been hashtagging it, so you see it a lot. It's Executive
Okay.
and Women's Leadership Project. And so it's just women leaders coming together.
Wow.
The one after that, the one that's in August, is a combination of men and women. And then the one after that is a startup. So October is a startup. The one in August is men and women. And the one that happens in April is just women.
So you have one. The one in April is coming up, and it's the third weekend. Did you say
Yes.
third?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's all. That's for women,
Yes.
and it's a 3 day.
Mm-hmm.
And is it where? Is it in North Carolina?
It's in North Carolina, and we have, as you already know, I have an Airbnb, and I usually have between 4 and 5 people come. It's not very big.
Wow.
I want to give
Yes.
the attention.
Yes.
It's just it's almost like a Zen experience, because you
Yes.
want to be able to sit, you want to be able to breathe, you want to be able to
Yes.
take in everything. So the one in August is bigger, but the one in April is small.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have people that will stay. We have an Airbnb
Yes.
unit suite in our basement, which is totally renovated, that I did
Beautiful.
as part of my decor.
Yeah, it's
My
phenomenal,
interior
everyone. Like,
design,
phenomenal.
phenomenal space. And then some people stay at the local. There's a local hotel that we use, which is the Hyatt. So, and they come over, and we do breakfast, we do lunch, and then we just have a fun moment. We watch a movie on the second night. And basically, you're just coming together with like minds. You're doing a shared
I
experience,
love
and
that.
you're getting the outline, and you're getting the goals, the tasks, as to what it takes to actually become accountable and to make
Wow.
your business flourish.
Wow. And then those benchmarks, right? That you
Yes,
follow up with them on. So
yes.
listen, exciting. I love it. I love it. I want to just put here now for everyone the email, right? It is
Mhm.
my forte. I love that. It is my
It
forte.
is my forte. Getting
Which
you
is
where
her
you need
last
to
name.
be is very easy to remember. I will help you because it is my forte.
Love it.
Accountability.
Now, Tanya, how did you end up getting that last name? You know what I'm saying? It being your forte. It just all worked out,
It
right?
just all worked out.
I
That's
love it. So this is the email, right? So you can contact Tanya directly for all of the information for her upcoming events and for this awesome, amazing retreat that you need to be, a part of in April. And then also you can reach her on Facebook at Tanya Forte, and then also Instagram is at T Forte. And then I believe the same is the same for your
Twitter.
Twitter,
Yeah.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
We also have a contact number. Let me give them a moment to see that. So if you are an email person, a social media person, or if you're that person that say, listen, I need a phone number. Here is the phone number, because not everyone does the social media
Yeah.
or, like emails, right? Give her a call.
Give me a
Set
call or text. I
or
like
text.
text. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And make certain that you get your consultation with her and you get your seat and you get your ticket so that you can really maximize your magnificence in 2022. Like if you have an idea, she says she has 3 different times, right? Or types of those events, those retreats, but it doesn't mean you can't go to all 3, honey. Does
That's
not
right.
mean that,
That's right.
right?
You will learn
So
something different in all 3.
absolutely, absolutely. So make sure that you get the information. Tanya, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with and our viewers with? I usually always ask my guests, you've given us such great information and knowledge and tools and nuggets and pearls of wisdom the entire conversation this evening. And then you gave us your awesome, journey words. But do you have any pillars of strength? What keeps you said a lot of those things, but what is a rule that you live by or a pillar of strength that you like to share as we begin to close out our beautiful conversation?
My pillar of strength is just the kindness in your day to day, the work through. I mentioned that on my list that I pray and I check in on people. That
Yes.
checking in is just to make sure. And the reason why I write it down is because when I look at it, I like to smile. When I'm saying prayers for people, it could be anything. I could hear something on TV, or, I might be, I don't know, at a grocery store and somebody says, oh, my husband, he had a heart attack, and then I
Yes.
pray for that person. I just found
Yes.
that when I'm praying, when I'm thinking about others, when I'm putting others first, it comes back 20-fold. So I
Mm.
just love that part. I love when I call someone and I say I'm just checking in. One of my
Yes.
friends,
Yes.
real quick, I showed her my list and she's like, "Whoa, you got a lot to do." And then she said, "You really wrote down check in on me?" Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
I write down to check in on people,
yes.
because
Yes.
then it becomes an important factor of my day. You become an
Yes.
important factor.
Yes.
So, and when I hear that things are going on, I want to check in, even if it's an email, it may just be, liking something, just making sure they're okay. Every
Yes.
morning, my children can tell you I send them 3 hearts, maybe red, maybe pink, maybe black, depending on how I'm feeling. But
Yes.
every morning I send them hearts or kisses.
Mm.
I always end with telling them I love them. I don't
Yes.
care how old they are. My sons are mama's boys. My daughter is spoiled rotten. I
Yes.
mean, I just love them immensely. My husband, he is the best thing on earth and
Yes.
is always, I mean, he's a big country man, but he is always got my back. And
Oh,
so when you
beautiful.
know
Beautiful.
someone has something for you, be
Yes.
kind. Just
Yes.
that kindness. And
Yes.
then I want to leave with this. I want everyone that's listening to think, do you need resources or do
I
you
love
need
that.
knowledge?
Ooh, that's a good one. Now listen,
Mhm.
and I'm not even gonna answer. I'm gonna do all of my work on it, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna get back to you. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna Tanya have my answer. Because
Mhm.
of course I think I have an answer, right? But I
Mhm.
want to put something into it. Because
It's
I know you're
it's
gonna
a big debate when you
right.
get
I
in
know
a
you're gonna
forum.
ask me why and what that means, and
Yeah,
so I need
you
to be
got to
ready
be
for
able to
that.
debate. You got to be able to debate. Like, why? What it can be
Yes.
convicted in that. Yeah.
Right. I love it. Oh my goodness. Such a great parting word, being kind and sharing that. We need so much of that. We really do. And being consistent with that. Listen, my sister, thank you so much for sharing your expertise your personal, your professional journey and giving us a backstage pass to everything that you have accomplished and where you're going. I don't take it for granted that you pushed aside, your time, to be here with us this evening and to share with us. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so excited that you are a part of my circle, and I'm so excited and proud of you being a barrier breaker and doing what you always knew you were created to do, right? So listen, everyone, make sure that you wrote down all of Tanya's information so that you can follow up with her. If you missed anything, you can always write it in the comments. I'm going to always, I read them. I'm reading them now. Oh, someone else said something. Let me see. It was Barbara Donato. Do you know her?
Barbara. That
Yes.
Barbara is my clubhouse sister. I love her to
Oh,
death.
okay. So
Yes,
Barbara showed
Barbara.
up. Thank you, Barbara. Sometimes people too, they'll let me know they watched after the show because they
Okay.
don't know that they can put in the chat. They're like, Deshaun, I didn't know that. But nonetheless, we are so grateful for you, Tanya. We are celebrating this month. You were the speaker celebrating Women's History Month, and you
Thank
did
you.
phenomenal. You listen. I'm gonna keep saying what you said. You kicked the door down, honey. That's
That's
what we
right.
did
Kick
tonight.
it
We
down
kicked
and
the
go
door
through.
down. So we just want to thank you. And I'm always saying, I always say, I miss you already, everyone, and always remember to live life magnified. And I always say, smooches and
Oh,
deuces.
smooches, pooches.
And until next time, we'll see you soon. Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Bye bye.